Gangbang mentality, movie after movie, can't get it out of me. Who wanna battle me?
I'm from the ghetto, so the hood rats get propers. Real criminals, robbers, and the pet bull squabblers.
When it comes to gangsta can't too many mess with me. Hang with me, y'all rise to the highest level of activity.
Mouth is a Uzi, I thumbtack you to the concrete, treat you like a floozy.
I like fly, so I scramble for the pay. Rather hustle homeboard and gang bang any day.
One to the neck, two to the neck, I'm sticking, I'm leaving them scarred. Trick knees get rolled off the yard.
What will I do in broad day? I'll turn Broadway into a hallway.
I'm down with the truth, some non-deuce, though I looted. It's the Y2K and I'm still khaki suited. What you thought,
Content and longevity, plus I spit that sit on your brain, homie, heavily.
Keep putting down thousands till it ain't nothing left. Cause real street let them roll to the death.
Westside Connection, featuring Ice Cube, Mack 10, and Dub C, formed in 1994, Los Angeles, California. Today's feature is a 90s West Coast rap group that's considered one of the best of all time, mainly due to each of their individual success, because unfortunately, they didn't last a very long time together, as by 2005 the group officially disbanded after 2 albums 7 years apart. They never got to reconcile and still harbor mixed feelings about each other today, at least Ice Cube and Mack 10. Westside Connection were supposed to be the revival of the West Coast group and West Coast rap in general, amidst the West Coast East Coast rivalry that would take 2 of the best rappers of all time from hip-hop. It was an interesting group of bandmates having a neighborhood crip in Dub C with the Queen Street blood in Mack 10. Can't forget the face of the group, Ice Cube, playing right down the middle and not claiming any of the sets popular in the 90s. With Death Row Records struggling after losing Tupac to low sales and the recent departure of super producer and artist Dr Dre, Westside Connection stepped right in and filled that void in rap for a hard gangsta West Coast supergroup. In the mid-90s, they enjoyed success on their first singles Bow Down and Gangsta's Make the World Go Round, both landing in the top 50 on the Billboard charts. It led to their highly anticipated debut album October '96 that landed at number 2 on the Billboard charts and sold close to 200,000 first week. Within a year, it was certified platinum, making the connection of 3 of the West Coast's most respected MCs a success with extended potential. When you speak about albums that were just about hip-hop classics, you have to mention Bow Down. Even though it took another 7 years for the release of their second album, the chemistry and hit-making ability was still there, landing on the charts once again with their 2003 Gangsta Nation single peaking at 33. Their second album itself became a top 20 album and was certified gold 2004. Westside Connection was special because it was the first time a hip-hop group featured 2 artists from once rival sets in the Bloods and the Crips. After the Rodney King incident where he was beaten and the 4 officers responsible were acquitted, the Bloods and Crips called a truce, and years later, with this extension of that, who knows where that could have taken the streets of LA. With Ice Cube's eventual star power transitioning to the big screen, the possibilities for this group were endless. By 2022, when asked about Ice Cube, Mack 10 let it be known they haven't spoken to each other in almost 20 years. They had the potential to be the best West Coast rap group. Instead, for these reasons, the connection was lost. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Westside Connection formed in 1994 after working together on each other's solo albums like Mack 10's song Westside Slaughterhouse and then on Dub C's album for the track West Up. Although the group thing wasn't necessarily each of their focus, seeing as they were still releasing solo projects that made noise on their own, like Mack 10, who released 2 albums after the release of the group's first that both went gold. His 97 based on a true story peaking at 14 on Billboard, and he released a top 15 follow-up a year later. Ice Cube since '96 released 1 platinum and 2 gold albums, all while being a big screen star as well. Dub C's '98 The Shadiest One sold over 1 million copies, while his second since Westside Connection's debut went gold. They never needed each other for success, but when they did come out together, the connection was evident and they made great music that sold for the West Coast. Stunt number 1, Ice Cube and Mack 10's beef. Beginning with the main reason for Westside Connection's disbandment, Ice Cube and Mack 10 found themselves in unexpected street/family drama that was close enough to cause the money to stop and the two to not speak for almost 20 years. For some reason, Ice Cube's wife's brother and Mack 10 and his crew had a disagreement in the streets that got to the point violence became a major threat on both sides. Mack would approach Ice Cube about it, as he says multiple times, trying to be diplomatic about the situation and squash whatever tensions in the air. After Cube did nothing about it, according to Mack, the brother-in-law was beaten up allegedly by Mack 10 and crew, and ever since, Cube and Mack haven't spoken or seen each other. As Mack recalls, he thought he and Cube simply had an argument that they as men could get past and move on and not let indirect beef soil the magic they had going. It's rumored that in an interview, when asked if he would work with Mack 10 again, Cube may have said something to the fact Mack 10 would have to kiss the ring in order for that to happen, to which Mack found comical at best, but worthy enough for them to never get the chance to speak about it, possibly fix their differences. As far as I know, Ice Cube has never responded to the rumors and claims of a problem with Mack 10, but the evidence that the two just distanced themselves from one another when they could have made future classics together shows that something personal happened that you had to be there to know about. For the record, Cube responded to the claims that he made the kiss the ring comment in Mack's direction and said, quote, "never happened." All these years and the two never made things right, sending the Westside Connection ship sailing on a one-way voyage to never releasing music again. Stunt number 2, wait between projects. Secondly, Westside Connection just didn't put out more music when they were hot. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with each of them having their own solo careers to focus on. Cube at that point was deep in the acting game as well, making his acting debut in 1991's Boys in the Hood and in a movie every year since. He first directed, produced, screenwrote, and acted in a movie in 98's The Players Club and has been busy on either films or TV. That, as well as a flourishing solo rap career, releasing the Platinum War and Peace Volume 1, the Gold Volume 2, and Laugh Now, Cry Later that went gold. All top 10 albums on Billboard. Mack 10 released Based on a True Story in 1997 that went gold, and The Recipe a year later that enjoyed the same success. Since 1996, it seems both he and Cube were extremely busy on their journey that Westside Connection had to take a back seat. Dub C also had his own motion going on, dropping a platinum album in 98 and another gold 2002 featuring the smash single Gangsta Nation featuring Nate Dogg. All these in between the releases of Westside Connection's first and second albums, leaving no real time for them to get together and be on the same page to make the history they were making earlier. Their second album released in 2003, peaking at 16 on the charts and also went gold. But with so much time in between both successful albums, it feels they could have capitalized more off the clear demand for the group's music and given us more classics from the West Coast. Stunt number 3, never settling their differences. Around the early 2000s and throughout the decade, gangsta rap music was beginning to peak in popularity, starting with 50 Cent's entry into the game's biggest act. The beef between he and Ja Rule, and beef in general, became the talk of hip-hop. Not to mention, Jay-Z and Nas's feud had the 2000s hyped for gangsta rap, and Westside Connection would have been right on time. It's rumored that around 2008, Ice Cube and Dub C had plans to revamp Westside Connection with rapper The Game, who was coming off a double platinum album in 2005 and another gold in 2006. That never happened because Mack 10 made it clear legally he'd still want and get his cut off anything they did, seeing as he owned the group's name. Game never joined and replaced Mack 10 in the group Westside Connection, and because they weren't able to mend their relationships after all those years, had enough between them that they had to go their separate ways. All in all, Westside Connection still made great music and history together in a time the West Coast needed group representation in rap. Their '96 album was prime Ice Cube, Mack 10, and Dub C when they were all still hungry and still very much focused on hip-hop. Also a time things hadn't gotten between them that they would eventually hold on to what seems like forever. Salute, much respect, but for these reasons, Westside Connection's growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.